Well, howdy, everyone. So I don't, this is me, doing it live. We'll see how this goes. I'm a little stuttery sometimes when I talk in person, but, and there's lots of uhs and pauses that you don't see when I write. But I wanted to talk about a few things, and I thought this might be a good way to do it. Hi, Corey. This is going to be kind of fun, I think. I stopped doing stuff real public, I'll be real honest with you, because I've done this before in previous elections, and I got death threats and stuff like that, and I got scared shitless, and letting myself be out there and doing the way I do is very... It's going to be dangerous now. Anyway, so first, let me start off with the first thing I wanted to talk about is Mea Culpa. What that means, if you never heard it before, it says an acknowledgement of one's fault or error. Like that, bad. I was pretty confident that Clinton would win. Massively confident. I thought people would know what was going to happen if she didn't. And so now we're seeing it. This river. Here he comes. You guys might get to see the amazing river just for a moment. But, Chris, if you could...
Yes, I'm getting it.
Thank you. So that was part of the deal, and I watched him this morning so I could come and rant this for a little bit, because it's hard to concentrate on that with that ridiculous cuteness walking around. He's so amazing, and he makes me so happy. If any of you are concerned about my bitterness, go with that, because I just, I'm an incredibly happy person. I love my life so much, and my family. So I was wrong horribly. There were a number of factors that happened, I think, in the last couple of weeks that changed the race significantly, and I didn't factor them. There was two things that I thought were going to let Trump win it, and I said this repeatedly: if Clinton died, or if there was a major terrorist attack. And outside of that, I didn't think there were other things. I kind of think there was a bit of that second one. Not a major terrorist attack, but something that I hadn't anticipated that was very large. And before we'll get to that, so I was going to say I was wrong, flat out. I can go into a bunch of other stuff and who I depended on to think about, and you know, when you put trust in things, and this is a bigger, larger point that I've been making to my wife repeatedly, and this is one of the problems in our society now, is there's no central figure of trust. There's no media figure, there's no Walter Cronkite, there's no one to call bullshit on what's happening. There's no one to give you a truth that everyone believes. And in that type of situation, what happens is the loudest, strongest voice takes over, and that's what happened. And there were a number of people. Joel Watts, he's on my friends list. He called this, and I was angry with him, and he kind of just took it. And Joel, so you were right, absolutely, and I was wrong, and I apologize profusely for that. There were other people who saw it, but again, though, even on that, and before people blame themselves too much for what happened or how it went and things like that, realize that what I'm going to talk about next is going to be kind of hard to hear, and I'm not a conspiracy guy. I hate it. Show me the facts. Always, show me the numbers. Do they add up? No, they don't. Okay, they do? Yes, I like this. So that's me. That's how I am. I'm going to ask you a question, and you can ask this question to other people. If, in another democracy, the CIA had done what the FBI did, what would you call it? If a week and a half before a major election, they let loose an email that, oh wait, we're still looking at this person that we let go months ago, oh wait, and then that country's media for the next week, and there was a story on Fox on Monday about how Clinton was about to be arrested and about to be indicted, and it was going, and they went with this all week, 24/7, because of this email from Comey. And if you look at all the polls, there's a nosedive from October 28th on down. And I think that brought it close enough. Just close enough. Hey, my connection is weak. So, sorry. I think there might be streaming going on upstairs. We'll see. But so, if the CIA had done that in another democracy, and then came out right before, a couple days later, we're like, just kidding. They were all dupes. How did you not wait to know that they were dupes? I do information technology. I'm a geek, hardcore nerd. You want to talk geek, I can go forever. And I do SQL. And searching through 650,000 emails takes all of 25 fucking seconds if you've got good hardware. And so the fact that he could have waited, known that they were all duplicates, and said, these are all dupes, there's nothing here. He could have done that. And the other thing, too, and I had an actually friend, I got a couple comments on this about just from the reason Comey, like the excuse for him to do that there were agents in the New York field office that were going to leak this anyway. And so he had to come out. But again, the thing that he scolded Clinton on was information security weakness. Meanwhile, the FBI is leaking like a sieve, and they don't have a meeting that doesn't show up on Fox. And so, again, I think we witnessed something here that bothers me a lot. So I want to see the final result of it. I'd like to see the reports. I want to see what comes out. If stuff comes out. So that's my FBI thing. Ask people the question, right? Ask them. Say, if the CIA had done in another democracy what the FBI did here, what would you call it? Because I don't know what the word is. And I'd like to see what the word is for that video, or for that kind of thing. So, Bernie, next thing. So, I did not think 2016 was the year for the socialist revolution. And I don't think this was the year that we were going to say, our country, actually, we really believe in socialism. We really think everybody should have health care. We really think everyone should have education. I absolutely believe these things. I stood 10 feet away from Bernie, and I loved it. It was great. You saw the pictures. You saw my hat. It's my hat. The hat's awesome. I'm going to get some good use out of that hat. But I went to go see Bernie. I love him. I think it's great. I didn't think this was the year that he could do it. And I might have been wrong about that. I know the kids were very, very excited about this, about Bernie, and of course they should be, but they don't show up at the polls, and to depend on them to carry this, I don't know if that would have worked, because a lot of middle America, these same people that appealed to that guy, you notice I don't write his name, right? Have you noticed that yet? If the argument was, hey, you need to raise your taxes to pay for all this stuff, I don't know how that would have worked. I like Bernie's rhetoric, and it worked really well, and if we never got to issues, I think he might have been okay. But it wasn't the time for that, and I think a lot of his supporters, not him, but I think a lot of his supporters really hurt Hillary in their characterization, and they really set up this narrative that then Comey knocked out of the park, or at least set it up finally to end it. Excuse me on that. All right, so how do I see what I was going to write about again? It's pretty cool to see a couple people watching. Like I said, I've never done this before. Trying to figure it out. I know it's a little awkward and all not. Ooh, there we go. Is that the one? Ah, there we go. Now I can see my agenda. All right, the FBI. All right, why Nate was wrong. The freerider problem. It goes back into a little bit of statistics and society. This is economics as well. There's a number of fields that go into this next little bit. The freerider problem is essentially why socialism or communism often doesn't work, is that if you give everybody free stuff, then a lot of people will sit around and not do things. and contribute, and then those free riders who are taking resources out and not putting anything in cause the system to collapse. Now think of the polling universe, right? You had these polling firms spending thousands of dollars, because polling is not cheap, and spending thousands of dollars to get the data that they're trying to get. And so then the last election cycle, last couple, you have this guy take all these, crunch them, and then come up with better results, essentially, than any single person could have done. And that's going to always be true. If you get 15 different opinions and aggregate the best bits of each of them, your opinion from those will be the best. By the way, and I'm going to say this real quick, the reason why I tend to know things and I'm good at stuff, because every time I'm proven wrong, I adopt the better opinion. And I did that for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. And if there wasn't a thing that I could defend, a position I could defend, I would dismiss it or drop it. And if there was one that I found a wonderful way to defend, I'd do that. So why Nate was wrong is he took all this, the free polling, and he used it and then came up with better results. But the problem with that is then the people who did the work didn't get the credit. He did. And he became the famous super pollster. But he wasn't doing any polls and providing this. So this time around, I think, and I've got to find the story on it, there was, like, I don't know, roughly a quarter, 25% of the number of live big polls that were done last election cycle. So again, garbage in, garbage out. So you don't put in good polls, all these things come out. The LA Times was consistently ahead for Trump, which I don't think is still quite right, because again, I think that dive in the email turned it. I don't talk this much. And the live thing is kind of ridiculous. So you'll have to excuse me. All right, so we're gone about 15 minutes now. I was going to try and do about maybe 20 or whatever. There's a couple people watching, which is kind of cool. Odd. But so I think that why Nate was wrong was that the polls were bad. And the reason the polls were bad is the pollsters weren't getting credit because Nate Silver had stepped in and started taking credit for all the pollsters. So that's how that went. Our standing in the world. I can make all sorts of facial expressions for days, but it's hard to really talk about this, like the damage that's been done, and I need to be more specific about things, but the chaos that's going to be created is dangerous. I'm going to post an article, and it's a little... when strong men take over, and when there's nobody to trust, the pattern of human civilization is not one of excellence, shall we say, at all. And I'm a big believer in the patterns of an arc of history. And, in the long run, things turn out great because, the weak and the infirm and the old all die in these massive things, and then everybody after that from the ashes. Anyway, you have to read this thing. It's a little apocalyptic, and I'm not going to go there tonight. But our standing in the world is it's greatly diminished. Everybody's laughing at us. Americans are our joke, a punchline now, just a straight up punchline. Anywhere you go in the world, just Trump. So we've got, and the fallout for that is, it's huge. One of the economic fallouts, and especially with the TPP dying, I could do a whole thing on that. But the fallout, the dollar being the reserve currency of the world was already up for question. It was a big, big question, and now it's. So there's certain things you can't do when you're president, and one of them is make offhand comments and things that this guy does constantly. You can't. You move markets. And someone who's been so in need of attention that he used to call media outlets to pretend to be his own PR statement to get them to talk about all these people he was banging. he did that. I mean, we have tapes of him doing that. And that's the person who you want to be measured and controlled in their public statements about the Fed and about anything. But the Fed is one of those that will be interesting to see, because comments about the Fed by the president move global markets. So there's that. So yes, our standing in the world greatly diminished. What now? I think you've seen something that, I mean, I'm not going to go too much into this. I write it, make them own it. It's theirs. You broke it, you bought it, you unleashed this hate and bigotry. And these stories, they're everywhere. I don't want to go because I'm not going to cry tonight. We'll save that for next week because people are watching, so I'm going to do this. How to have energy for this, Roy? Rhetorical. I can't, so go. Oh. Energy. Folks, you don't even know how long I've prepared for this fight. So anyway, I wrote a book to set this whole thing up, so I'm ready. I'm gonna put the book out before too long. I just hit my 42nd birthday. I don't know if you've ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but this number's always been kind of special for me, so that's why I'm talking to you. Because I'm not going to hide anymore. So we'll see how that goes. But what now? Oh, we're gonna go. We're gonna go meet some people this next week. I would highly encourage everyone to get involved. We've got some various charities that we're gonna give to. The Southern Poverty Law Center is high up on there because I want them to be able to track this and be able to give support to people and fight it, because there's going to be so many legal battles now across the board. Voting rights. How do you suggest talking to people who are Trump supporters? I have my own style. I'm very confrontational, and I probably a bit much, a little bit. Because in person, I can do this smile and laugh thing when I'm calling him a fucking moron, and it works a little better. So I don't think you should definitely copy what I do, because I am myself. So how do you talk to them? Figure out what they want to do, why they did it. I think a lot of them don't even know what he is or stands for, which is nothing but bullshit. So I mean, just talk to him. I think part of what I've been doing this last week is, and I'll be perfectly honest with you people, is setting in, they need to own it. Because they need to own it, and it needs to be theirs. Because it's not mine. And I fought so hard against it. And it's this, yeah, Brexit, yeah, I know. By the way, the reason I don't even want to go into this stuff. So I don't want to talk about my too much personal life. But anyway, yeah, Brexit already affected my family's life. The global financial market is a real thing. Oh, on the trade stuff and our standing in the world. So one of the reasons why I supported Obama and the TPP and generally support the concept of international trade is because of my understanding of belief about human history and what it's done and how we can generally avoid massive wars that kill everyone. And one of the ways that we can do that is by knowing the people that they're telling us we need to kill. And trade is a good way to do that, right? So if you're trading with people, and when you trade up and down, like when you've got farmers selling to their, meat packers and back and forth, right? There's relationships up and down the board, and so the wars become just ridiculous. Why would you do that, right? So that's one of the reasons why I believe in international trade, even though there's intellectual property issues I have, and even especially as an IT worker, right? With my whole entire career, my industry is threatened, if you will, by immigration because there's more than enough people in the world to do certain jobs if you move them certain places. So I'm well aware of the upsides and downsides of these kind of trades and things like that, trade agreements. But I do think the TPP falling apart is bad. But I don't know that we're going to see a better version coming out. The negotiations that this guy does are really bad. And I'm going to say this real quick on a little bit about his business history, because this got lost. The guy's a reality TV show star. That's what he has done this century. This century. That's all he's done for work. He tried to be a developer. He failed massively like that and had a huge personal bankruptcy. And he couldn't get any more money from U.S. banks and all that. And I think he's massively leveraged with the Chinese and Russians. So we'll find out soon. I guess. I don't know. I guess apparently there's some law that protects the president's finances from actual investigation. So, like I said, lots of lawsuits and any of that. I think that's most of what I wanted to do tonight, was just do this and see if anybody would watch. And there was a few people watching. And I think that might be enough. I don't know. I think these things start over when you do it, and watching this goes on forever now. And like my wife said, got a little bit to say. So I do think ultimately the future will be awesome, because it's what's something politically I call myself a pragmatic realist. Like personality wise, I'm a cynical, sarcastic optimist. So I do think the long arc of history bends towards justice as long as good people keep fighting. So, right, and there's really no greater, death than fighting on the battlefield for what is glorious. Totally melodramatic, right? So with that, I shall bid you adieu, which you can still say in public, I think, in this country. And thanks, everyone. You'll probably see me again. Have a good night. I love you all.